All right, so for everybody who made it despite the tube, thank you so much. My name is Miko. I suspect at this stage I just spoke to every single one of you already, so I feel like we know each other. This cinema is amazing. The seats are probably a little bit too cushy. We'll ask them next time to make them less comfortable for you, so that you don't fall asleep. I literally had a guy behind me start snoring off yesterday. It was quite an experience. So a little bit of energy would be good. You guys remember Balmer? Developers, 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 developers. Let's try to do some of that with the SRE. So I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit shorter than expected so that we're back on time. But I effectively have three things to share with you. I would like to thank you all for coming. I'll tell you what happens next, what we do next year. And then I want to rant a little bit about the state of SRE and where I hope it would go and where it actually is right now. So, with that in mind, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I know you've got busy lives, you got a lot of events and a lot of things to do other than sit in a comfortable seat in a cinema paid by your company and enjoy nice talks. So thank you for choosing us. Let me just very briefly put my corporate hat on and thank our sponsors. Oxford Knights, a recruiting agency. They have some goodies arriving a little bit delayed. We'll be distributing them later. Rootly and Stormforge, who will be giving the keynote a little bit later today and still have Legos to give out. So Erwin here for any Lego information. We managed to convince 150 humans, I'm switching my hats now, to come today, which is quite a nice thing to say, and they all seem to be happy humans. This is second edition for everybody who didn't watch the previous talks from last year, and we'll be doing more. So what happens next? Next year, we're doing SRE Day 2024 in London again, hopefully this venue, and we're partnering up, we're in talks to partner up to launch a US edition as well. On top of that, we've been talking and thinking about how to do something a little bit more regular so that we can keep a little bit of the vibe going throughout the year. And we decided the best way to do it will be to just do a pub crawl for SREs. So we'll be launching something every month. If you want to join, very chill, no sponsors, just SREs ranting about things that they tend to rant about. And don't worry about remember any of that. We'll start a newsletter and we'll be keeping you informed with all of this. So that's the 2 points. Now, to the main portion, the rant. Have you guys seen this meme already? I think like one of the most pet peeve things of mine is branding. Like I've got a few more of those. But they all basically point to the same thing. We really do suck at branding. So for the context, like I spent the last 10 years basically either building platforms or doing SRE work or doing work that now is SRE but previously would be maybe more like DevOps or more like production engineering or sysadmin on the days when I'm not feeling like myself. So I wanted to very briefly kind of share with you a little bit of what's happening in my head when I'm talking about the SRE. And I'm gonna wear a few different hats here. Can you guys see this? Is that big enough? So this is a mind map. My mind is very convoluted, so you're gonna have to deal with that. But if you go and look up, there was at least 3 different talks that I attended yesterday that try to either define or redefine or refresh the definition of SRE, right? And that probably is another symptom of the problem I'm talking about, is that we don't really have a particularly good definition either. Like my favorite one is basically SRE is when you give ops people who hate ops work and hope for them to automate it away, right? And if you go to Wikipedia, you also notice that they use words like usually and a combination of the following. So they're not even sure what they're going to do there. And that probably leads to a situation like this, when I don't know how many of you have done this previously on your CVs or your LinkedIn. Don't worry, I'll check your LinkedIn later. But it's a real thing, right? And I've got this one here. I don't know how many of you are unicorn or high capacity assault unicorn or high speed underwater unicorn. I probably should put my marketing hat on actually, which is this one of my favorites. But there's a lot of them, right? We started with DevOps, like 20 years ago. Then site reliability engineering was all the rage, coming from Google, coming probably a little bit from the other side of the spectrum, right? DevOps trying to merge the two, remove the silos. Then site SREs just hating ops and trying to remove them entirely. But then we got production engineering. By the way, like how many of you have DevOps on their resume at the moment? There you go. I see like 6, 7 hands. Not very fashionable, is it? How many of you swapped that for SRE? I see. Oh, actually, that's about 10-ish. So similar. Production engineer, anybody? We've got 1 production engineer. Well done. Whose platform? Okay, so looks like we're basically evenly distributed here. Sorry? Oh, it's just the team name. Okay. Who's chaos engineering? Come on. No, nobody. You might have seen me talk about chaos engineering a lot in my past life. But I was expecting to see at least one person. Like, you should be doing some chaos engineering right there. Who heard of the no-ops? Like, that was a thing for like 2 weeks, a couple of years ago. We gave up on that very quickly. AI ops. That's how you raised money not that long ago, right? Anybody doing AI ops? No? Anybody pretending to be doing AI ops? Oh, there we go. Thank you. It was fun, right? Until it wasn't. Then we got, the sysadmins, the release engineer. Oh, any release engineers? Okay, half. Like one hand up there. Incident engineer? Come on, PagerDuty, anybody? No? Okay, fine. Reliability engineer, infrastructure. So, oh, there we go. Infrastructure or reliability? Okay, so there we go. So that should have, unless some of you raise your hands multiple times, which I think I actually saw, that's a pretty even distribution, right? So what does it actually tell us about the state of these things, right? One of the things about scope is that it's a little bit like DNS, right? It's always DNS at the end of the day, and it's always scope. So we've got a bunch of things here, right? From firefighting, and one of my favorite memes of all time, this is fine, to incident mitigation, to all the things that probably sound a little bit more SRE than the others, right? The reliability goals. When you talk about SLOs and SLIs, that's like unique enough that most people will appreciate. That's probably sounds like Google, and we should be doing that too. So let's do that. Then we got things like automation, right? Is automation DevOps? Is automation SRE? Is automation release engineering? Who am I to say? Right? It's a little bit of a mess. So unless we hire some better people for marketing, we're just stuck with that. And then we've got things like SDLC. It's great to say I'm an SRE, but who's going to do the build, right? Especially in a smaller company, right? We don't have any build or release engineers. Do we wrap this in? Who thinks that SDLC should be included in the SRE? Okay. Who thinks they shouldn't? Okay, so the rest doesn't think anything about that, which again brings me to the chairs. We really need to make them less comfortable next time. Excuse me for our friends at PagerDuty, but who said that SRE should be doing incident management? Oh, this guy said that, right? It's in the name, but when you think about that, the number of times that we had the conversations with the applications team about who should be doing the rota and who should be doing the support for the application, it's not completely obvious to me, right? We can help them. We can set the tools for them. We can set up the on-call rotation. But at the end of the day, more often than not, it's going to be a problem for the application team, right? Unless we're really shitty at our work. So hopefully that confuses the situation even further, and it brings me back to this. It's a little bit of a flag. So what's the way out of this? Like, should we just keep inventing new names for it and keep replacing them every couple of years, and go back to this kind of memes where everybody wants to have their own name? We could do that, or we could just kind of stop pretending. We could call everything SRE, and we could focus on the things that we actually do and stop dividing. And the state of SRE, and replace SRE with your favorite name for it, is getting more and more amazing every year. We've got a few talks yesterday talking about like the choices that no longer risk too much, no longer risk getting you fired, right? And we've got some obvious ones like Linux, like Kubernetes that ate the world. We've got containers. Nobody thinks too much about putting things in containers anymore. But we also got the observability, when it's becoming increasingly obvious what a good starting point is. Like things like eBPF, and they'll let you do superpowers, right? Things that previously was more like hacker movies things. Now you can write a line of eBPF and get the data out of the kernel space into user space cheaply and aggregated, right? We've got automation, got things like Git and GitHub, and then obligatory reference of the CNCF Foundation. And actually, for the keen eyes out of you, you're probably going to notice that it's from last year. So I bet it's even bigger right now. Yesterday there was a nice meme someone had about a puzzle made out of this. And I think we kind of all agree that, there is a lot of choice, and the tooling is mostly there. A lot of the tooling, we've got more than we actually need. Then we've got things like SaaS, right? A lot of our friend vendors offering things that get you started quickly. You pay them money, and they do things for you, and that otherwise you would have to have a team to run. So we're in a pretty good spot in that kind of in that respect, right? Then if you look at the popularity of things, because at the end of the day, this is really why we put things on LinkedIn, why one way and not the other. The SRE seems to be chugging along just fine. I don't know what exactly happened on the 27th of February 2022 for DevOps to go back into fashion like that. What I do know is that the AI ops didn't exactly take off. So the AI ops and the platform engineering are the bottom ones. And despite strong memes, the interest, comparative to SRE and DevOps, is actually quite minimal, right? And then we've got things that are more organizational, right? Once we've divided the labor and we called ourselves titles that we're actually happy with, we've got decisions to make, for example, between an embedded and cross team. So in the audience here, who is an embedded SRE / DevOps / platform / whatever in that respect? Who's embedded? Yeah, when you sit within the team and you basically are like a spy and you figure out what they're doing and you try to, intercept encrypted messages. No, I'm just kidding, just, getting in there. So once again, hands up, who's embedded? Okay, so that's like 15 people. Who's not embedded? Okay, fine. So it looks like not embedded is winning this one. For the platform teams, for the ones who raced with the platform, what's your model? Are you like completely independent? This is our platform. Everything else is, separate from that, and come to us with requests and put a ticket, Jira ticket here. Who's doing this like that? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. Okay, fine. So, another layer of choice. I've personally worked on embedded model for about a year, and we can chat about the pros and cons of that later on. And getting started is getting much easier every day. We've got the classics, right? Keep plugging this in case you haven't noticed. It's a nice book, and the barrier to entry keeps getting lower, right? And it might not be necessarily visible in here because, again, I don't know what DevOps did in 2022. but the barrier to entry just keeps getting chipped away at. So where are we going from here, right? If I now put a different hat on and check this out, now I'm a project manager, and a project manager needs a Jira, and this is my best Jira impression. A bunch of stuff is already done as far as I'm concerned, right? Google did a lot of work to define and write up the manifest, the books, and kind of bootstrap a lot of this reliability talk, right? They built some awesome tools, the community did, and added to that, and some very high-profile adopters, right? The names like Google and the names that just kind of resonate with people and intrinsically sound cool. We've got things in progress. We keep adding docs to it. We keep adding tools to it. We keep standardizing. And on the to-do list, we still got reaching mainstream, right? This is all still pretty niche. And if you look at an average company, not many of them are doing that. And not necessarily because they're not Google and they don't have a scale, but maybe because they didn't get the memo that they need to rebrand and call it something cooler. So with that in mind, I hope that I managed to confuse you even further and share a little bit, the madness that is happening in my brain. Hope you like my hats. And thank you again for coming.